Marhaba and how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to Yuwab podcast, where we talk about what it takes for you to be a better version of yourself so that you can lead better and thrive in this life. I'm your host, Saeed Alghafri, and I'm very grateful, as always, that you are here. If you've been listening for a while, thank you so much. And if today is your first episode, I'm so pleased to have you with me here today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channels. You will find me in YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And please rate my show as we speak. This really support my show and my journey, and it should take you only seconds. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I've observed across years of leading people and coaching executive, something that is rarely discussed directly. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And there is leaders who ask their people to go through things they themselves have never faced. You know, that credibility gap that creates from that quiet resentments it builds, and that damage it does over time. We're going to talk about that. So let's dive into today's topic. You know, we expect our teams to navigate through challenges. It's normal to sit with uncertainties, to give difficult feedback, and to be honest about failure, and sometimes to be even vulnerable about the right moment. And we always keep telling them, you know what, you should hold yourself accountable. When you think about what I said, you may think like, oh my God, are we talking about Superman or are we talking about Wonder Woman? It's just a lot. And we stand in front of them and say, this is what we need from you with a firm tone. But here is the question that most leaders never ask themselves. Have I actually done this in the past? Not theoretically, not in a book you read, and not in a training room, in real life and under real pressure. Because here is what I've seen. Leaders who deliver transformation programs that they have never done one, or in situations where leaders who preach psychological safety and say, speak up to their team in a culture that themselves help make unsafe. Or another situation where, where leaders who ask teams to be accountable while quietly avoid accountability themselves, you know? And you may see leaders who talk about vulnerability, as if it is a strategy without it being actually vulnerable, you know? These are situations where people will feel like, why are you telling me to do something and you are not doing it? All right? What happened is, why should they even try doing that? You know what is the problem here between what I just said? The issue here is in you. The people that you are leading who are in that culture, okay, and you expect them to do something, they look up to you. And that's basically what happened in the office and even at home. So you'll have to walk the talk. Do you know why this is important? Because leadership authority is not really given by a title. It's something that you earn through years of lived experiences. And the deepest form of authority is the kind where, where you make people genuinely willing to follow you into difficult territories and in tough situations. And that comes when you yourself do these tough experiences. When a leader asks their teams to be honest about failure, and then let's say that that same leader share a real moment about their own failure. You know what happens when someone listens to that person? The whole room dynamic completely shifts positively, naturally. Or, when, let's say, you see a leader asks their people to embrace change and honestly talk about how hard change can be for them and for themselves. You see people naturally soften their resistance. This really show you how authentic leaders can become and how empathic they can be when they ask their team to do anything. But when leader ask without having faced that situation themselves, the asks sound a little bit naive. People start questioning very much, and the gap shows. Even where it is not even named, even when someone doesn't tell that person in their faces, people will just swallow that and then they will take it with them. You know? And that's where you see people very much comply. They don't really believe, and you cannot build a great team in just compliance by itself. There should be a purpose and there should be a belief. Let me share with you like an everyday example that I've seen. When you see a leader running a resilience workshop, for example, for a very stressed team, you walk in, everyone is stressed. But what happens is that person talks about stress and resilience, and they themselves are super burned out, and you cannot hide it. Your team would know. Or maybe an executive who asks for transparency for a direct report. You tell, listen, man, we need to be transparent. But has never even been showing that transparency is a value that they should basically cultivate. Or maybe a father that tells their kids, you should stop scrolling while having dinner. And while having dinner, you see that father or mother just scrolling by themselves. Or just a CEO who's trying to build, a coaching culture within the business and hire coaches for the team and all that. And them themselves have never been coached in the past. All of these cases, the message is absolutely right. The intention is basically there and it's very much genuine. But the authority to deliver that missing message is not there because that messenger has not walked the road. Let me share with you real stories in my life. Earlier in my career, I was working with a senior peer at that time, and we identified a major, let's say, culture change that we want to do in his function. All right? Now, that has been identified basically as a serious risk for the business, and it was because people were very much leaving. There was a high turnover. A solution has been identified, and a long term has been identified as well. Super fantastic. Everyone is happy. All right. This senior leader has been nominated to lead the change, just like that. Woke up in the morning, walked into the office because he was leading that function, and it's not natural. I would do the same. He basically was nominated to be leading the change. The guy technically was very sound, amazing, and super knowledgeable when it comes to that. And I remember he was the first one to say, let's make the change. First one. But when things got real, this guy was the last to follow, and he was provoking the narratives in some instances. Now, two things were happening without him noticing. When he was nominated, and everyone was excited, including himself, no one verified if this person is basically able to manage a change, or is he easy to change. The second thing is he never had any similar experience to drive such change. Because of these two things, he started to resist. And that is not because he didn't want to do it. It was because of fear and lose of face. That's it. Even his team and people, including myself, noticed that. And while everyone said, let's change, let's do that, let's do the culture did not really change and it did not really move. It had a good momentum in the beginning, but it did not move. You know, after that, a new leader was brought to lead this project, and he did a great job. Not because he is better than the other person, absolutely not. It's because simply this guy did go through such a change in the past. And he knew exactly what he was talking about. You see the difference? That's basically what happens when you don't walk the talk as a leader. It becomes a little bit difficult, not because you don't want to do it, it's because you are facing thoughts and emotions that you are not capable, you're going to lose face and all that. But with the new person, it happened. This second story is very much personal. I was very much fortunate one time and was asked to be part of a let's say a coaching initiative for one company, and they listed I think 10 or maybe 11 coaches to be available for that company. And honestly, I was very much excited in the beginning to be part of such initiative. And I was waiting for a call and I was waiting for a call. And honestly, it took at least 1 month for someone to reach out for a session. And I was thinking, maybe it's me. Maybe I did something wrong in my profile. Maybe something happened. And I was really pushing the blame on myself. But when I asked, I saw that the employees of that organization had a perception that their current company is not very much serious about coaching. Meaning, uh, what happens is that they're just doing it because it's something nice and all that. And even when the actions comes and the solutions, no one will take action. Why that perception was there in the company? Because this was the first time the company has done this initiative, honestly. And most of the people who were in that company came from several places where their previous organization did not take things seriously. And in addition, the employees were very busy. All right? When you think about this initiative, it could have been a waste. Since the company spent a lot of money into tests and interviews to come up with that initiatives. What happened is the leader of that organization took a coaching session, not with me, and then started to talk about the benefits and what basically came after that and what actions they have taken. From sharing that experience, the momentum in the company just went honestly north. Everyone was very excited. And everyone was like, you know what? We should do this. Let's go. Let's do this. And this started the whole employees of the business to seek, and that's how I got my call. If it wasn't for that leader taking the initiative and sharing the experience, no one would believe in such beautiful initiative. In all these examples, you see how important leaders are when they walk the talk. Let me share with you 3 key elements that would support leaders to lead with authority. The first one is, before you ask yourself. When you're about to challenge your team, ask yourself, have I done this work myself? And what does it take for me to do that work? If the answer is no, that's really not a reason for you to stop asking. But it's the reason for you to do the work first. And that's normal. And to be honest with you, it would be good to tell people that you are also learning alongside themselves. Both are far more powerful than just pretending that you are above that journey. When you communicate, it's very powerful, especially when you share with them exactly how they are feeling. That's the first one. The second one is share the road, not the destination. You know, the most credible leaders that I've known and I've read about don't just describe where they are heading to. They share the roadmap and what it would cost them. Not money, it could be even effort or tiredness or time. And this is how you should sound as a leader. I am here to let you know that we are going ahead with this initiative or project. And it's not going to be easy. We are all expected to make mistakes, and that's absolutely fine. I've done this yesterday and did not do very well at all. And I did it even today just to make sure that I master it. And I did pretty much well in it. You know, when someone hears that, what do you think their reaction would be? They will feel very much comfortable doing that initiative. And they will say like, whoa, this guy really went all the way to basically share with us this initiative, and we should all do it. And you will see all that fire in themselves to do it. The third thing is go first. Always go first. Don't even think about it. If you want a coaching culture, be the first one to be coached. If you want psychological safety, be safe to speak the first. If you want your team to be honest, be honest in a way that has something at stake. Always go first. Don't even think about it. When your team see that you are doing it and what you are trying to achieve, you know, it would become like a magnet. Everyone will be attracted to it and they will follow this initiative and they will follow your lead. So as we reflect on what we've been talking about today, I want you to ask yourself, what are you currently asking your team that you haven't faced yourself? When did you last share something real, not polished, with the people that you lead at work or at home? And is there a gap between who you present yourself to be and who you are actually under pressure? And what would it mean to be the first one to go, whether in your family or at work? Write it down and reflect as much as you can, because that experience will definitely make a change in your life. All right? So, as we end, you don't need to be perfect to lead people through difficult situations or initiatives. You don't really need to have all the answers. All you need is to be honest about what you've done and what you've faced, and have that willingness to go through difficult situations yourself, not just send others over there. You know, the gap between what leaders ask and what they model, that is the most expensive gaps in many organizations. Just close that, even partially, even if you don't know, and watch the change happening. And here is what I want to leave you with today. The leaders who changed people's lives, the ones that I have watched, worked with, and shaped everyone around them, are the ones who have not figured it out all in the beginning. They are the ones who faced things honestly, who went first, and who brought real experience in the room. That is what earns the right to lead people through difficulty. Not the title, the truth and honesty. If you feel this episode got you moving, please share it with someone. You never know. Maybe someone out there may need this reminder. And always like and rate my episode. This definitely helps my journey and my show. And until next time, thank you so much for being with me, and always lead from the front and not from the back. مع السلامة.